Welcome to the B-Rollers right here at CRNC The Heat, live from the Shark Tank. I am your host, Ryan Fleming, and with me as always, my co-host, Matt Gough. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing great, Ryan. How are you doing on this fantastic day?
Buddy, I couldn't be better. You know, you and I are two huge wrestling fans, or as they say in the business, two wrestling marks, and it doesn't get any bigger for wrestling, especially here in Ontario, than the King of Bling himself. Mr. Tibierious King, also known as Jesse Scott. Jesse, thanks so much for being here, brother.
Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. We've known each other for a little while now, a couple years now. For those at home, though, that haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, can you give them a little bit of a background about yourself and what got you into the business?
I mean, everybody's pretty much got the same story. You know, they watch it when they were a kid, and, you know, next thing you know, 10 years later, you're doing it, and then you're wondering what you were thinking. So.
You said you grew up watching it as you were a kid. Like, who were some of your favorites? Who were the ones that really inspired you?
When I was really young, of course, Hulk Hogan. That's who I grew up with. Then as I think the 90s, late 80s, 90s started to come along, I started to gravitate more towards, Mr. Perfect was definitely probably my favorite, and Ric Flair. I had a summer where I literally just pretended I was them. The entire time. I had this summer camp that was just down the road. I grew up in Fort Erie, and I'd walk to it, and as I was walking, I would play either Ric Flair's music or Mr. Perfect music in my head and have their entrance for about 5 minutes just walking to summer camp. So, yeah, those were probably my major influences when I was a kid.
So at what point, was there something in your life that made you go to wrestling? Like, was it just a fan and you're like, I want to do this, or was there something more?
I don't know. It just kind of happened, I guess, kind of organically. Like I'd watch it, and then, but when I was growing up, I didn't really know that there was anything else out there. I didn't even know WCW existed. I had an idea, like I would see it, but I never really got into it. It was more WWF stuff at the time. And then when I got to high school, I linked up with a couple guys, and they had all the wrestling magazines and stuff like that. And so that's when it kind of really started to steamroll. I'm like, oh wow. And kind of the world kind of opened up a little bit. So, yeah.
Like you said, like you had friends in high school and you guys would link up with your wrestling magazines. Like, did you start training with them, or did they just eventually grow out of it and you just never did?
That's pretty much it. The one guy, he trained a couple times, but it wasn't his cup of tea. So he was a smart one.
So I did a little bit of research into your background, Jesse, and you didn't have the best start, or at least the best first impression when it came to trainers, when it came to professional wrestling. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with your first trainer?
Yeah, so, a buddy of mine, my buddy Derek, I could say his name, it's fine, whatever. We were growing up in Fort Erie, and Derek was an interesting cat. He would always just, I think back then, he'd send letters to people or straight up mail or, call people all the time on the phone, like, hey, I'm so-and-so, and, talk to wrestlers. So anyways, he saw that there was a school opening up in Niagara Falls. This guy opened it up. His name was the Gator, and for lack of a better term, he was a absolute con man, never really trained in professional wrestling. And so my first training experience was us actually getting beat up for real by a 35-year-old man. I was 18, 17, and he beat us up, put his fingers in our eyes, put his fingers up our noses, tried to pull our nostrils out, try to put his hands in our mouth, punch us in the face, kick us in the back. Literally, we would go there and get beat up. And I remember the first time after that first wrestling class I had, I woke up, and I was still in high school, and I actually couldn't move. I thought from the neck below, I thought I was paralyzed. And I didn't go to school that day. So that's my first experience.
Wow, that's amazing. I want to get back into a lot more of that when we come back from the break, Jesse. I just want to remind everybody that we are in studio right now with Jesse Scott, a.k.a. Tiberious King, the King of Bling.
Look at here.
Look at here. And we will be right back with you right after these messages right here on CRNC, The Heat.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Going before the break, Jesse, you said how you had like a rough experience with your trainer. How you guys would get beat up, and like you said, he was a con man who never trained a wrestler in his life. So did that experience like deter you at all from wanting to become a wrestler, or did it just make you want it even more?
It didn't really deter me. Luckily, where we are then, everybody kind of figured out Gator was, a con man, and he got kind of booted out. He wasn't paying rent at the place, and a bunch of us got together and almost opened up like our own kind of bohemian-style wrestling school. And Danger Boy Derek Wild came in and was training us. So it was kind of like a transition, but it was disheartening because I trained with Gator for about 6-7 months. I had a match, and I thought, oh, you know what? I'm pretty good at this wrestling thing. Once Danger Boy came in, I was back at ground zero because I knew nothing because I actually wasn't trained at all. And so everything, basically I was taught the complete opposite way of how to actually do things. So that was disheartening. But no, sorry, I'm kind of off on a tangent here. But I just wanted to do it. I still wanted to do it for sure.
Now, you said you guys basically started your own kind of guerrilla organization or training school. Yep. Can you tell us a little bit more about that school and what had come from that?
Yeah, so the original training place was in Niagara Falls on Thoroldstone Road. It was, I believe it was called the Niagara Falls Boxing Club, and we rented some time from the owner there. And so we train 3 days a week, and somehow I ended up in like the executive board. I'm like 18 years old, and people are coming asking me questions, and so there's about 3 of us running it, and we were originally Southern Ontario Pro Wrestling, and we were Golden Horseshoe Pro Wrestling for like a day or two, until we finally settled on the name of Fighting Spirit Pro Wrestling. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Fighting Spirit Pro Wrestling, like you said, you and a couple of guys formed that together. How long did that last for? How long did you guys keep that going for?
So we were Fighting Spirit for about 1.5 2 years, and we running our own shows with the school, and then eventually we had a break from the boxing gym we were at, and then we launched Neo Spirit Pro Wrestling about 2002. Yeah, about 2002, and then we did that for about 3 or 4 years. Took a hiatus, came back in like 2011 or 2010. About 3 years, and we're on hiatus, so it's never over. You never know. I could run a show next week. Who knows, man?
And you speak about that, about you could run a show next week. Yeah. And that's one thing that I do want to talk about. And I know this is, for some people, it's hard to hear, but you're one of those people that is just well respected. You're known all across all of Ontario, not even just the territory. Everybody knows who you are. You've trained. When you get that kind of gravitas or you get that kind of recognition from your peers, how does that affect you on a day-to-day basis, especially, whether you're training or you're in the ring with somebody?
Well, I don't know. I think just me, I guess, personally, is I don't feel that, I don't feel that hyper compliments, I guess. Maybe it's just something of how I am, maybe self-deprecating or something like that, but I just don't feel like I'm this figure. I don't think I am. I'm just a regular guy, just ran a couple shows, and they were decent shows, and that's about it. So it doesn't, if I'm in the locker room, I'm just a guy.
Yeah. It sounds to me like you're selling yourself a little short there. And I don't say that haphazardly either, because Neo, was around forever. You guys are still around. You're on hiatus, but you guys make your mark everywhere on other promotions as well, whether it be Crossfire or what have you in the area. I just want to ask you yourself: is this something that's going to keep going on? Like, is Neo going to be back soon?
I don't know. A lot of people always, I guess it's kind of flattering that sometimes I get messages from guys and I'm like, hey, so you gonna run a show? And I'm like, I just have a young family and stuff like that, right? So it takes a lot of time because the way the show is, like, I'm very particular. So things have to be just right, like the ring apron. If it's sagging, I'm upset, so I have to go out and fix it myself. And I'm really involved that way. Like, if there's a bag, whose bag is this? Let's get this bag out of here. I don't want the fans to see a bag. And it might be small, but that's the kind of micro level that I can get to. And I guess it's a strength and a weakness. So it takes a lot out of me. So I don't know, but
Nice.
If I won the lottery tomorrow, I'll tell you what, I would 100% do it. Just full steam ahead, absolutely. So
Well, we'll be there watching if you do that. I just want to remind everybody we're sitting here in studios with Jesse Scott, CRNC The Heat, and we'll be back with more from him right after this message.
When you think of pro wrestling, this is the man that you think of first and foremost. The Tibierious King is a Hall of Famer, and the smarts of him are bringing Gary out here tonight. Like, that just goes to show the King is always in the ring. The King of Playa.
All right. Welcome back to the B-Rollers Corner. I am your host, Ryan Fleming, here on CRNC The Heat. I'm sitting here with Matt Gough, and we are here with the King of Bling, Tibierious King, also known as Jesse Scott. How you doing, Jess?
I'm good.
Hey, again, thank you so much for being here. I don't know how much I'm going to be thanking you in a little bit, though. This seems to be the part of the show that every wrestler loves the most. I talk to guys and I'm like, are you sure you want to do the chop? And they're like, yes, that's the only reason why we're doing this. This is how I pay people, I've been told.
Well, you get asked all the time, and it's like, all right, and I'll do it.
Now, is it really something that you do get asked a lot? Is people ask you to chop you, or just
people at work, man? It's just like, what are you guys doing?
Is the chop the number one thing?
People associate the chop with wrestling, so yeah.
And you being a huge Ric Flair fan.
Yeah, I could toss one. I don't know. It's been a while since I've thrown one, but we'll see what we can do.
Now, our co-host Matt Gough here has been training in wrestling as well. Now, Matt, for yourself, what do you feel about chops? What is your favorite chop?
My favorite chop I've ever given was when I did a hair versus hair match against Ryan Swift. My favorite one I've taken was against Josh Alexander.
That's a weird one to be your favorite. Now, how about you? What is the hardest chop you've taken?
The hardest chop I've taken would be Sin Bodie, a.k.a. my buddy Nick. So Sin, you know him as Sin. Sin Bodie in WWE. He was Kazarni for a while. His chops are pretty lethal. He hits you and you kind of pee your pants a little bit. You just get a little squirt.
Well, and now I'm a little worried about that happening to me here live on air. I know everybody at home is ready for this, and we will be getting to that any second. But just before we get that, I do want to ask you one thing. I do ask every wrestler that comes on the show. If you could have one match with anyone from any time era, alive or dead, who would it be and why?
I think for me, if I could have one match, it would be with Rey Mysterio.
Wow. Yeah. Well, why Rey in particular?
I like to think I'm a good guy to complement that sort of high flying style. I mean, it's been I had a lot of matches with Danger Boy Derek Wilde back in the day, and anytime I'm in there with a high flyer, I can calculate things that they can do, like versus like a heavyweight style, and it's I like the size difference, and I can catch pretty good, and I can flip it when they toss me. So that's why, and I think with Rey Mysterio, it would just be that's just my dream opponent. If I could wrestle anybody, that would be him. Absolutely.
Awesome. I'm going to ask you one last question. The same question I asked Cody Diener, because you guys are such veterans, especially in the area. Who's the one guy that you think we need to look out for?
One guy you need to look out for in
wrestling,
up and coming.
Yes.
It's kind of hard because I'm always in and out of wrestling, and the only wrestling I watch, I've got the network. So let me think. Someone I
Matt Gough.
I got nobody. I know we're trying to get to a commercial or something.
No, it's okay. You know what? Actually, what we're going to get to right now is I guess I'm going to stand up and. You're going to flare chop me.
I'm going to blast them.
You're going to blast me. All right. So for the folks at home, Matt will give us our send-off once we're done, but let's do this.
All right.
I'm afraid.
Man, I lost on that question. I'm like, I have no idea.
It's all good, my friend. So what side do you prefer?
Typically this one here.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like these students are going to
they're going to love this. So. Okay.
You got 2 layers on
I have 2 layers. I figured that was the best way to do it.
All right. Are we? Just let me know when we're filming.
You're good.
Okay, we good? Yeah. Got a thumbs up. Okay, so I'll go easy on you.
I love how everyone says they're going to go easy on me and then they don't. No. Was that easy?
Oh, yeah.
That was awesome. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Well, I'm Matt Gough for Ryan Fleming.
Oh,
I want to take a time to thank Tiberious King, Jesse Scott, the King of Bling, for coming down to talk to us. We appreciate it. And tune in next time on CRNC The Heat.